This is the Old Testament reading, Psalm 77. I cry aloud to God, that he may hear me. In the day of my trouble, I seek the Lord. In the night, my hand is stretched out without wearying. My soul refuses to be comforted. I think of God and I moan. I meditate and my spirit faints. Selah. You keep my eyelids from closing. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. I consider the days of old and remember the years of long ago. I commune with my heart in the night. I meditate and search my spirit. Will the Lord spurn forever and never again be favorable? Has his steadfast love ceased forever? Are his promises at an end for all time? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he in anger shut up his compassion? Selah. And I say, it is my grief that the right hand of the Most High has changed. I will call to mind the deeds of the Lord. I will remember your wonders of old. I will meditate on all your work and muse on your mighty deeds. Your way, O God, is holy. What God is so great as our God? You are the God who works wonders. You have displayed your might among the peoples. With your strong arm, you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. Selah. When the waters saw you, O God, when the waters saw you, they were afraid. The very deep trembled. The clouds poured out water. The skies thundered. Your arrows flashed on every side. The crash of your thunder was in the whirlwind. Your lightnings lit up the world. The earth trembled and shook. Your way was through the sea, your path through the mighty waters. Yet your footprints were unseen. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses.
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul.
It is so good to be with you today. I bring you greetings from your Evergreen family, from your other 66 church family. It's good to be with family. It's good to be with family. I don't think I don't think it's possible to exaggerate the remarkable work our global servants are doing all over the place. We have the gift of their work and their service and their partnership, and so I'm very glad to see you're here on their behalf, for they do really carry ministry in a wonderful way. We started in a very paternalistic way. We started going out to the world and telling them that we are the best ones. We got Jesus, and if you just do it like we do, you'll be fine. If you don't, you go to hell. But now, we've shifted. Now we work with the faithful in other spaces. And I love that partnership, so good to see you, Ray. I think I'd like to say that I love how broad you're exercising the understanding of it is well. Because it's not as narrow as we have made it out to be, right? And in our culture, the worst thing you could do is be sad or upset or down. Everything we do is to rush us out of those feelings. Right? Everything where our culture is designed to move us away from feeling anything that is negative. And we do it so well that we pay the price. In that our life is so narrow, our capacity for living the breadth of emotions is so small that we are annoyed all the time. All the time. Everything is annoying, you know. I went to pick something up at a store, and there was a line of 4 people, and I was the third, and the 4th person gets there, and he says, it's the last time I do this. This is why I order online. I'm supposed to just pick it up. Now I need to wait. And I thought, how good is your life that this is the worst that's happened to you? It isn't. But we are so afraid of frustration, of pain, of anger, of loss, that when it comes, it exasperates us and we want to leave as quickly as we can. Which is why I love how Scripture calls us back to embracing it. Now, before I go on, I do need to say that there are many things in our world, and one of those is that there are things that we cannot just pray away. There are things we cannot just smile our way through or just get over. There are things, there are moments, there are times at which professional help is exactly what we need to get through something. It is one of God's gifts. I want to preface that because sometimes Christians, we feel erroneously, we tell others, you just pray about it. Have trust in God. God will get you through. And that is true. It's just sometimes that God shows up as a psychotherapist. And the way to find God is for you to go to your sessions. Doesn't make you any less. It just confirms your humanity. So I want to spend a little bit of time in that space. It is too much space. And that's what the psalm brings us to. I don't think I'll do it justice. I'll try, but I would like you to think about someone you care for deeply, who is hurting. We don't know the reason, but we know they are hurting. And we're next to them. And this is a friend time. This is a vulnerable space. right? And then, in that space, you hear this. I cry aloud to God, aloud, that He may hear me. In the dark of my troubles, I seek the Lord. In the night, my hand stretches out, wearying. But you know what? My soul, it just refuses to be comforted. I think of God and moan. I meditate and my spirit, it faints. It keeps my eyelids from closing. I'm so troubled. I can't speak. And then I consider the days of old, and I remember the years of long ago. I commune with my heart at night. I meditate, I search my spirit. Will the Lord scorn forever and never again be favorable? Are His promises at the end of all time, all the way? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has His anger shut up His compassion? But you know, what do we do when someone we love is in that space? How could we possibly help someone who's in that space? I know the language was different, right? I couldn't imagine our friends speaking that way, but do we get the sense of that? The depth of that pain? I meditate and my spirit faints. I think about what happened and I can't even stand. I think of God and I moan. Is God so mad at me that He let this happen? Will God keep ignoring me forever? You know, will the Lord spurn me forever and never again be favorable? Is this going to last forever? How could we possibly hope to help someone in that space? We might say, right? We might be more comfortable than they are at that time. Or we might want to fix it right away. Right? And sometimes fixing it just makes it worse. Sometimes we say, when a child dies, well, you know, God wanted another angel in heaven with him. Is God mad at me that He took my child? Why would God be so selfish? Can you feel the impossibility of this? How do we handle this? How do we deal with this? How could we say, how could our mind be well in that space? Because to me, it's remarkable how we guide our mind, right? We feel like we could guide our mind. We feel like we'll make things. You know, there's even, there was this understanding, initial understanding science, that if you smiled, you could change your mood, right? You could fool yourself into smiling. If you just smiled, you could literally change your mood. It's remarkable how much we could guide our mind, but paradoxically, it is just as remarkable how much our mind controls us. And how does it happen? We live with you. I'm here when you're making the plans. I'm right here. How could I not know? How come how could something we are so good at controlling be just as good at controlling us? It's remarkable, the gift we have within. But how do we walk into whatever well means when everything is out of control? I'll give you one very tempting way we use often. René Girard, a theologian, he calls it the scapegoat principle. Right? Whenever things are out of control, whenever it feels like it's beyond us, whenever the pain or the anger or the frustration is beyond what we could do, we need someone, something to blame. That helps us. And so we do that. We blame someone, something. This has happened because you. This is what totalitarians use. They give you something to blame. And then they'll say, once we fix that, once they pay, once it is done away with, things will be fixed. And that's a very shallow hope. Because it plays with our ability to fool ourselves. I mean, there's no one better at fooling us than we are. Right? Nobody is better. This is the reason why there are so many self-help books everywhere. Because we could literally think that we could fix us by reading a book. These 10 steps. I mean, do you think that if that worked, do you think there would be hundreds of thousands of diets coming out every year? If we could actually do it, what need would there be for a new diet to come out? If we could fix ourselves, what need would there be for self-help books to be sold every year? Right? We're so good at fooling us. For example, have you noticed that when you buy a car, suddenly there are a lot of the car you just bought all over the road that you had never seen before? Wow, this must be a popular car, and now it's everywhere. But there's also a dark side to that. It's often called the moral hazard. This is where we tend to go further into the wrong way because we convince ourselves that it is the right way or that we're safe. This happens with cars, right? In the 1930s, the mortality rate on the roads was very high. There was a 94% reduction of that by the early to mid-90s. Seatbelts, shoulder seatbelts, airbags, anti-lock brakes, all these other regulations. And then in the late 2000s, now is going back up. That's moral hazard. We feel we're so safe that we're again starting to drive irresponsibly. Because I have airbags everywhere. Anti-lock brakes. My car will let me know if there's someone in front of me. It beeps, it makes me brake. So we check our text, we are distracted, we look at things, So we suffer the consequences of thinking that being safe means that nothing will happen. And that's the problem with rushing out of grief. That it makes us unprepared for an important part of life. So being well, our mind being well, means that we do the work of preparing for when things don't go the way they should be. And there's a quick test for that. How do you react when something simple doesn't go your way? How do you react when an easy thing a thing that's supposed to work doesn't work? I was on a flight. Ray, you'll know this. You're on flights all the time as well. I was on a flight that was 2 hours long. And the captain gets on and says, I will have to apologize to you all we're thinking a delay, but he says, our Wi-Fi will be unavailable for our flight. And the gentleman next to me says, that's the last thing I needed today. Are you kidding me? They put me in this space. They make me take my shoes off. I have to wait in line. I do all of this. I'm spending the days in this place, and now I can't do my work? Are you kidding me? The rest of the flight was the worst flight he's ever had. I mean, is there anyone so important that you cannot be away from email for 2 hours? I mean, if you're that important, you wouldn't be flying commercial, right? But that's not the worst that he's lived through, I'm sure. But because he is so well practiced at thinking that he controls his world, whenever something he doesn't control happens, it wrecks his world. And he is therefore incapable of handling it. And what happens then is that everyone around him suffers the consequences. When we are incapable or unpracticed at handling the lack of control we have, we suffer, but we don't suffer anywhere near as much as those around us suffer. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll. How many of you have been in the high seas? Not in a cruise ship. It's an important difference. If you've been in the high seas and not on a cruise ship, you know when the sea billows roll. You know what that means. In a cruise ship, you don't even notice it. It's a mall, right? You're in a mall. But if you're in a smaller boat, I mean, sometimes all you see in front of you is water. You look up and there's just water. And then you climb that and then slam down. That's what he means. When something happens that wrecks your world and you have absolutely no control over, whatever my lot. How many of us could handle that? How many of us could live into saying, well, this is my lot. I need to address it like it comes. Whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. That could only happen if you could get yourself to a place where you say, I cry out loud, God, aloud, that you might hear me, please, please, please. My soul refuses to be comforted. My eyes are kept from closing. I'm so troubled. I cannot speak. If you get yourselves to live into that space and bring it into the community that God has brought to you, trusted community, those you love, those you live with, those you partner with, those mental health professionals God has brought your way, once you get yourself to open up into that space, to say, I cannot take this and I don't know what to do about it. If you get yourself there, when you get yourself there, it's going to be difficult, impossibly difficult, and at the same time, a path will be with you. A space where you could say, I know I can't make it, But with you, with God, I need you to take me for a little bit, God. That space where you are so open, so comfortable that you say, I can't do this, but you can. Can you carry me for a little bit, please? Once you get there, then it is well with my soul. How we get there, we'll give you just a few hints. And this is from you, so good on you. I love this. Help me to know the magical power of sleep. Teach me the art of taking minute vacations, of slowing down, of to look at flowers, to chat with an old friend, or make a new one, to pet a dog or cat, I don't know, depending, to watch a spider build a web, to smile at a child. Make sure context there. Or to read a few lines from a book. All of those things, to notice the world around you with as little judgment as you can. Because when you do that, you might just be surprised by good, and there are very few things better than being surprised by good. So if you try to do this searching for the good, you'll find it, but it won't feel as good as if instead you say, I'm just going to pay attention to what's around me. And when you do that, good just washes over you. And then, when Psalm 77 becomes your life, you will call to mind the deeds of God. I will remember the wonders of old. And that then will say to you, there is a way out. There is another way. It might not be yours. You might not carry it. It might mean you're asking someone else to help you through it, but there is one. And then is when we could say, it is well with my soul, because thou hast taught me to say. So I close with saying that God is always with us. It's just that regularly God doesn't show up in the way we want to tell God to show up. And I think that's intentional. Because if God showed up in the way we wanted to tell God to show up, we would be selfish brats. And we would do things like, are you kidding me? How could there not be Wi-Fi on this flight? But if we watch and listen, God will come our way. Christ will guide us. Jesus will sustain us so well, so comfortably, in such a vulnerable space that we will say, it is well with my soul, and mean it. Amen.